spirits of air, we ask for peace in our hearts and the ability to ease into the transitional time as our beloved Carol takes flight into the heavens. Spirits of the East, you gave Carol her first breath. We bathed her in sweet laughter and we release her to you. Thank you, spirits of air.
I call upon the spirits of the South. South represents summer, abundance. Summer holds fertility, passion, fire, heart, strength, family, gatherings. That's what Carol loved, gatherings, fun, delightful. Courage, warmth, growth, creativity, joy, and peace. These are all the things that Carol taught us, qualities that she showed us. Amen.
I too speak to the South. I ask that you bring us the lessons of the South. Summer, gentle wind, solitude, warm nights and cool mornings. We thank you for the innocence of the children to laugh and play, to trust, and to speak the truth. We thank you for innocence and strength that Carol possessed that allowed her to believe in her abilities to do amazing tasks, to persevere and to succeed in the impossible. Spirits of the South, thank you for the trade winds that Carol knew how to navigate so well and bring us reggae to the shores of the Eel.
So if you guys, thank you, Bruce. So if you guys please forgive me, we're going to turn around and do our west towards the west and also towards the family. So I hope I make it through this. Thank you to the direction and the waters of the west whose element is water and brings us rain, and water is balance. Ancestors of the west, bless our sister Carol. With your gifts of intuition and knowledge of the spirit world. Bless Carol with your rain and birth water for her spirit to soar and travel safely. As the sun sets in the west, Carol takes along our love and friendship eternally. Namaste.
You're tired of snorting. We call the energy of the North today to honor the life of Carol Bruno. The North is the place to rest and renew. Carol was a Capricorn, a child of winter and the earth. Carol loved art, music, and her wonderful fruit trees and gardens. Carol loved her children and grandchildren. Carol loved this community of freaky people who brought us all together. We miss her and love her forever. Blessed be. I'm supposed to pass this to Celeste. Where is Celeste? Attention, Celeste. Thank you. Come to aisle 4.
All right, I maybe should have wrote stuff down, but I'll try not to drop too many F-bombs. So, whoa, it's like an echo. Let's take a moment and look around at each other. There's so many beautiful people here, and that we have gathered here so many times for send-offs and good times. And has a baby been born here? No? Conceived? Little ones that used to run all around are now teaching their little ones over there. So really, let's acknowledge everybody and soak it all in, because we might forget a lot of this later as time goes by. Let's take some deep breaths if you want. Close your eyes if you want. Let's really think about Carol and the things that resonate in your heart and your memory about her. And really, I encourage people to share your memories. They say that when you talk about somebody, it keeps them alive. And I know Carol will forever live in our hearts and our souls. And when I think about Carol, I get this image that I saw for so long, is like her with her little flowy, either a skirt or a dress, like draped in her Reggae on the River sweatshirt and all the laminates, and her cowgirl boots, and her like high school cheerleader leftover turned into Reggae little shuffle on stage. And I also remember so many times her looking out and crying tears of happiness. Look at what we did. It's so beautiful. Always crying. For sure. And I was really fortunate that she was my first mother-in-law. And she was really generous, gave me a job at the Mateo probably because of that. At a really amazing time when we built the building, I got to be one of the Bobs that built the building, builder Bobs. I got my Celeste Bob laminate still. Lots of memories there for sure. And I sat in that office for a long time, and I watched Carol really give up a lot of herself, a lot of her family life. She was really driven. I always remember her wanting to make the right decision. And if she had a little predicament, she would always go around and ask everybody what they thought. What do you think, Celeste? And always thinking about the decisions that she would make. And super important to support community. She was an amazing artist, and I miss her, dare I say, like cackle laugh, like chackle, Carol laugh. I don't know. And I just have always admired her. I feel like she really sat in a place of authority and really had her ego in check, and was so good at dealing with thousands of volunteers and the weird idiosyncrasies of all of our characteristics as we got our important job at Ego on the River. And we've all missed her a lot probably the last couple months, but yeah, this is a safe space, right? Like, what is that, NAAA? Like, you don't have to talk about those stories, but they should come up because they'd be really good. So I encourage everybody to, even if you don't like standing in front of a crowd with a microphone, which I don't know if anyone really does, but to get up and say a memory, a story, just how much Carol touched our lives, because she did, and so many people all over the world she brought together constantly all the time. And the day before she passed, she held on and brought some of her grandkids together with their dad. And she was always somebody that somehow brought people together. So let's keep the spirit of Carol alive by talking about her. When you see John, tell him and the family how much you love her and what was special about her. Because even if you cry, it helps and it keeps her alive. So let's all say her name. Carol! Love you, Carol.
I don't think I'm really ready to speak. I'm still kind of dealing with it. So for me, it's different for me than the whole reggae thing. It was deeper than that. So, no. I'm done. I don't want to keep talking.
We love you. Oh, here we go. He likes to talk. We love you, BB. No.
I've never been afraid to stand up with a microphone. Security, we're having some hecklers over here.
I'm off duty.
First of all, Carol Bruno could always draw a crowd. Nice to see everybody. Wow, so many Carol stories. And I know if Carol was here right now, and we all know that she is because we can feel her spirit. We know that she's here, but if she was physically here, I know, having worked with Carol for as long as we worked together, and with so many of you, that she would be looking at me right now and she would be like, in as few words as possible. Okay? And then she would laugh, that Carol Bruno laugh that Celeste so succinctly referred to it as a cackle. And she would laugh at the idea of telling me as few words as possible because she knew that was impossible. Thank you. Many years ago, I remember being out here in the meadow at Beginnings, standing in a circle, when Jan Iris passed away, another force of nature in this community. And I remember standing there with Al, not so much a force, but a nice enough guy anyway, and occasionally he was good for a laugh. And I said, someday, as we all grow old together, we'll be standing in this circle all the time. And he was like, yeah, people just will be dropping in the circle. I hope that doesn't happen today. Oh. I just want to take a moment.
Good to be back, huh? Good to be back.
I never left. We just went to town on different days. All right. Carol was a mentor to me, and I learned so much from working with her. And we mostly agreed. We mostly saw eye to eye most of the time. But sometimes we didn't. And we thought when we didn't agree that was probably a good thing because there was a chance that one of us might be right. Think about that. Yeah, do the math. Anyway, that's All I have to say, I just am really happy to be here, and I loved Carol very much. Johnny, I love you, and I love you all, actually. All right, most of you. Like she said.
Yeah, girl, come on. Keegan.
Okay, I knew I was gonna have to do this, so let's get it over with. Don't make me cry. So, of all of the marks that my grandma left on my life and all of our lives, I feel like that does have an echo, Celeste. That's super weird. Okay. I feel like there's one story in particular that I just have to tell. So, can't really give you much context for it, but basically it was right after she started getting sick. And I told her, I was like, we're just gonna get in the car. We're just gonna go to Stanford right now. Like, fuck this. Like, you're not waiting around to die. And so I put her in the car and we drove to Stanford emergency room. We drove 5 hours straight from here, and then we sat there for probably like another 3 hours, and then it's another hour back to San Francisco. And I forgot to get gas. And we almost ran out of gas on the freeway, and I felt my car like start to slow down, and I was like, oh fuck, and I looked and it was past empty. And my grandma was just cruising, looking out the window. Oh, this is beautiful. The 280 is beautiful. It wasn't that great, but it was to her. And I just like took the next exit because I was like, shit, we're gonna be like in the middle of the 280. We're gonna die. And we pull off, and I'm running out of gas, and we end up like coasting downhill on King Drive, and then we see a Shell gas station, and like as I'm running out of gas, we pull into the Shell gas station, and I'm like sitting there, and I'm like, oh my god, like we literally just barely made it. Can you believe there was a gas station right there? And I turned to her and I was like, dude, like the universe is on our side right now. And she looks at me and she just says the most profound Grandma Carol thing I've ever heard in my life. And she says, like I'm an idiot, right? Like, of course, she goes, the universe is always on your side. And and of all of the things that she ever said to me, that was a very consistent theme, and I'm sure all of you know that. And so I just felt the need to tell that story so that I remember it and you guys always remember it, because it's part of just remembering who she was, like as a soul, as a spirit. Like, I've never met anybody with so much faith in the universe and so much faith in the people around her and in herself and in everything. Like, even when everything was completely going to shit, like, I'm like, this is the worst possible situation. We just drove like fucking 8 hours to be turned away from this fucking emergency room. Sorry if there's children here, by the way. And we almost ran out of gas and died in the middle of the 280. And no, it's actually a bunch of dry, dead grass around us. But it was beautiful, and the universe was on our side, and it always is. And it brought us all here today, and it brought us together. And it's going to keep bringing us back here. And I love all of you guys. And I hope we can carry that spirit on and that trust in the universe. And yeah, rock on.
All right.
loves us all. This is the best celebration of life. John, I can't imagine what your life is like. The family, I've known you all since we grew up. I'm not going to cry. She doesn't want us to. She wants us to live on in spirit and just be as happy as we can be. And to Carol Bruno, the wonderfulest woman in my life, I'm going to miss her. I know she's looking over me last night going, hey, Bob Lyon, what in the fuck? Okay, sorry, kids, again. We grew up here. For those of you who might not know who I am, my brother's somewhere here. And we grew up. We moved to Edwardsburg in 72, and the Bullocks were right with us, right in the thing. Danny, the whole family, all of us. I mean, we've all been united. And the most inspiring thing that's happening right now, Joe Mama, DJ, and all the family here, the musicians that come from all over the world, it's for Carol. So let's say Irie Carol.
Irie Carol!
We love you, Carol. This celebration of life is the most important thing. This is Ernie Branscombe, one of another good local men of this town, and I know she's very spirited to have us all here. So, thank you, John. If you ever need something, or any of you of the family, you know I'm here for you. My heart goes out to you in so many ways. All right, Irie, baby.
Irie Carol!
Thank you, Bob Lyon. Bob just introduced me. I'm the token redneck here. I just wanted you to know my family goes back to 1857 in this area. Bob Barsotti there is on my grandfather's ranch in Laytonville. And I'm attached to this country. And my whole family was loggers, and we were the heroes that were building America up until about 1970. You guys can all boo now, it's okay. But in 1970, we realized there was a big change coming about, and we agonized about it a little bit, and I talked to my guru, Fred Wolf, if anybody knew him. And he said, you better get used to it. They're buying land. They're here to stay. So if you can't accept them, you better get out of here. So I decided, well, I'd take Fred's sage advice and stick around. And I discovered many things came with the newcomers. The culture that they brought was like I'd never seen before. I saw bands come to, Carol brought bands that were my bands clear back when I was a kid, and she brought them here in Garberville. I just couldn't believe I'm watching Hugh Masekela in Garberville, and my God, the Neville Brothers. And Bob here's carrying it on. He brought Chris Christopherson to Laytonville last, and Susie. But anyway, I decided I was going to make the change, and Carol was a great help for me to accept people. You know, she didn't mind the fact I was a logger. she accepted me, and we got along good, and I enjoyed the music and the culture. The thing that pained me the most that happened to this community was, you see that flag back there? It says unity. Yeah. That was an ideal for a long time, and then we got into what was known as the Reggae Wars. And no matter how hard I tried to tell people, you know, you need to get past this. If I can get past this, you can get past this. You need to get back together and put community back in the community center. And it was a terrible fight, and I'm lost some of my faith in humanity with that little conflict, and I'm starting to regain a lot of the faith just looking around me here today, and to see some of the people hugging that were in a bitter war a short time ago was really good for me. If you know, because there was there was a third side to me, the community, and I see it all coming together again, and I'm very pleased, and I'll miss Carol beyond what you might know. And where's John? Oh, hey there, John. Hang in there, John. You know, day at a time, it gets better. I've lost a lot of friends through the years and parents, and you get over it. Who's next? I feel a hook
So first off, you did a good thing. You always said yes to fixing refrigeration.
Yeah, that's right, Ernie.
And only Carol could make you do that.
I was at first reluctantly involved in Reggae on the River because they always plugged all the refrigerators into the same tree, and I had to go down and send it out. But I think I've been to every Reggae on the River that they've had here, and I enjoyed every single one of them.
So I wanted to follow Ernie because this is the theme that I felt most strongly in the past few days, is that there were very, very few people in my life that could convince me of something that I didn't want to do. And, you know, PB was the one who kind of forced me into a different role. I was just happy decorating and got into a different role. But it was Carol who convinced me to stay. And you did. It was like an ambush. Right. But that's why you would call me when you guys disagreed. And at any rate, I you know, Susie, the Empress, somewhere. Where are you? Yeah, you're a little unfair too because you ambushed me. You and Carol came. I was living happily way the fuck away in, oh sorry kids, at the Woodlands in Mendocino, way out. And you came and you spent 2 days lobbying me to come back and to help in 2006, which turned out to be my last year. And you used a lot of people's name in vain. I was just telling Diana Totten that a little while ago, and Pete. But I think a combination of what Tegan said about just an instantaneous knowing that it'll work out okay, even in the face of everything else, and a persistence and a relentlessness followed by a cackle, that was grounded in love and heart. And that's the winning combination, because you could be as persuasive as you want, but unless you have that heart, you can't move spirit. You can't make what happened happen. And she had both of those. She had all of it. And she motivated us in a way and frustrated us in a way that nobody else could. But she gave us so much in return, and each and every one of us have our own stories and our own experiences of all those years, or even just a moment, and it was shared and rooted in her incredible, incredible spirit. And to her immediate family, even though we're all family, yeah. And by the way, this is how I really got to know the term, I love you, man. Carol. But to her family, thank you so much for sharing her. You didn't have a choice, and I know that really wasn't easy. We were foisted upon your lives, and I know that probably brought a lot of challenging moments, but thank you. And thank you also for sharing in her passing, because that's not easy either, and we love you and are here to support you. Thanks.
Yay!
So Hannah started a theme, so I got to tell you what Carol did to me. It was early 80s, the Mateel had burned down. I used to go to the parties in Mateel, didn't know anybody there. I was showing movies at the Garberville Theater, and Susan Axelson, who owned the theater, graciously loaned it to Mathilde to do fundraisers to try and rebuild, and so I had the keys, so I said, I'll help, and I met Carol Bruno, and she said, come to a meeting in Jimmy Dangler's house. We're putting on a reggae show, and I need somebody to run the vendors. I could do that. There's like 6 vendors. I think I could. I got there, and Carol said, I got somebody for the vendors. I want you to run security. And I go, no, not me. Absolutely not. I'm the guy who sneaks into shows. I don't know. I don't like authority. This is not my thing. And Carol said, no, I really think it's you. I really think you need to. Well, you know what followed. 25 years of Reggae on the River career. Carol completely changed my life. And she did it with grace and with love. And I worked all those shows. Yeah, I got paid and it was a living. It became a career, but I did it out of the love, out of the respect, and I would follow her anywhere. That's why we're all here. So I don't think I'm the only one here who can say Carol completely changed my life. Took it in a completely different and better direction. But love y'all.
Not as many years experience with Carol as most of you guys.
Hold the mic up.
Up?
Up.
Not as many years as the rest of you with her, but I'm going to just speak about when somebody's gone and what they leave and what you have to live with and live by. And I feel like she like transcended lines where the old hippies and the young reggae brats they had to coincide. And I feel like she's gonna be remembered by her legacy, which is bringing something to this area that hasn't been brought before and probably won't be brought at any point soon, considering by the way that our festivals are going.
So back in the old days, and it's been quite a while, I think, I had my youngest son wasn't doing very good in school, and homeschool. How come this thing doesn't? There you go. So I decided to homeschool him, and he went to Matol's charter schools.